I have no fear whatsoever of anybody or anything.
Hey everybody, it's been a while since I've done one of these Ask GreaterSapien atheist-based videos, which is really kind of silly because they're really easy to do since I don't script them. I just talk and ramble and then just cut it together in the edit, which means no matter how many times I mess up, screw up, blow it, I just edit together and it will look absolutely flawless, seamless, perfect every time. So that being the case, I'm going to try to do a few more of these on a regular basis. So what I'm trying to do is cut down on my interactions on the comment threads, because that is quite repetitive and honestly time-consuming, and do more responses through these videos. So hopefully I'll be able to get my act together and you'll start getting maybe one or two of these a week in addition to the longer evidence-based videos that I do. So for this video, someone sent me a link to this gentleman's video here. This gentleman's name is Cornelius Jones, which is a dope-ass name if there ever was one. I'm totally jealous of this man's name. And that aside, he's obviously a man of extreme faith, and he has some questions for atheists that he feels that atheists can't answer. And the reason I'm doing this video is because the reason he believes atheists can't answer this question is indicative of what theists believe the nature of morality is, and what their misconceptions are of what atheist thinking is. And specifically what my thinking is, because I can't speak for all atheists. We're all individuals. We're not like a group with one particular moral compass. We all have our own moral compass. And so I'm just going to answer this question from my point of view as Jerry Williams. I don't speak for all atheists, but these are questions that this atheist can answer and feel perfectly comfortable with answering. So let's take a look at this video, and I will chime in where I feel necessary.
All right, what's up all my YouTubers? Here's Cornelius Jones coming to you again today. And I just have a very short one. Yes, we are continuing with our conversations with the atheists today. And for this video, we are going to assume that God does not exist. Let's just assume that very briefly, okay? Let's say, okay, atheist, you had it right the entire time. God doesn't exist. So with that assumption, I have a very important question for you, okay? If God does not exist, will you please answer from your worldview this question? Here it is. One thing that we cannot deny is that humans, we all die. Okay? Doesn't matter how good you are, how bad you were, if you were a law-abiding citizen or you were one of the most atrocious rapists, okay? We are all headed the same direction. And as far as I understand, in the atheist worldview, when you die, that's it, because we don't have a soul in the atheist worldview. So when you die, that means we die, we cease to exist forever. Okay? Now here's the question. With that being the case, there is no God, and we all die and cease to exist. What that means is we all share the same fate. The question is, how is it fair? Explain to me, how is it just? How is it right that I or you, who, let's say people in general, let's just say people in general, who are law-abiding citizens, people who live their life to try to help others, people who do good things, do you not realize that there are people living today that are pedophiles, that rape children, okay? And they've never been caught. And they probably never will be caught because someone did not speak up. And these pedophiles who rape children over and over and over, are going to share the same fate with, let's say, the fireman who lived his life saving lives, who risked his life saving lives. You mean to tell me that it doesn't really matter in the end how good you lived, whether you served others, or whether you lived a despicable, treacherous life by hurting others? You are in the same fate. You experience the same fate. Explain to me how that is right. How is that fair? To share for a person who lived a good life, they're going to end up in the same place as the murderer, as the rapist. Now, remember here, I am asking a question from an atheistic point of view, from a person who is conceding for a moment. Let's assume God does not exist. In this worldview, how is that fair? How is that right? With that said, that leads me to the next question.
Okay. It's not fair. Straight up. It's not fair. Whether or not it's right, that's all kind of subjective. There's no, you have to believe that there is an objective right and wrong in the universe to decide whether or not it's right or whether or not it's wrong. But whether or not it's fair, it's not. But there's nothing that says that things have to be fair. We go through our life with the understanding that things are not fair. When we raise our children, we teach them to recognize the fact that things are not fair. The world is not fair is a phrase for a reason. Life is not fair is a saying, because life is not fair. He's expressing here what I think is a childish desire for fairness in the universe. That somehow there has to be a balance somewhere, or it's just not right. Remember, when we have children, we recognize that they're always looking for fairness. They're always looking for fairness. He got one of those and I didn't get one of those. That's not fair. And to a certain degree, we go, you know what? You're right. That's not fair. But as they get older, there are times when one person does get one more than the other one. And it's perfectly fine for that to happen, because that's just the way things balance out. Not everyone gets the same of everything. And so it's a sign of maturity when we see that our children can deal with the fact that things are not fair. But for some reason, people of faith like Mr. Jones here, when it comes to the ultimate fate, and he's talking about the ultimate fate, when he's saying their fate is the same, it's the ultimate possible fate, which is death and then nothingness. When he's wanting the ultimate fate to be fair. Now, I understand that life isn't fair. So, and since I think that the ultimate fate is pretty much the same for everyone, I work toward justice and fairness here, now. So yes, I recognize the fact that there are people who will go unpunished if they never get caught, and then they won't, they'll just die and they won't get any type of eternal punishment. So I look to nail down these criminals and have them reach their fate now. Money launderers, people who steal from old people, and corrupt politicians, they need to be found out now on earth in their lifetime and get punishment then. Because I am of the belief that, when they die, they die. So I acknowledge that the universe is not fair. The ultimate fate is the same. But I think it's a naive and an immature concept to believe that everything has to be fair. So it's not that I can't answer the question. It's just that you don't like the answer. As an atheist, I have no problem answering that question. But as a theist, he just doesn't like that answer. It doesn't sit well with him. And I understand that. It's not a comfortable thing. But we're adults. Our job is not to have the world be comfortable for us, to have everything sit well with us in the end. It's not about me in the end. The universe isn't about my comfort and what makes me feel good and what helps me sleep at night. That's not what the universe is about. So the fact that the universe is not fair is what it is. So I have no problem answering that question. He just has a problem living with that answer. We'll move on.
Since we all share the same fate, it doesn't matter how good you are, how bad you are, you're going to die, and that's it. You cease to exist. So for these millions or billions of years, let's make a timeline of billions of years that this earth so-called existed in your worldview. We only live for 60 to 70 years, so we're just a fingernail and on a timeline spectrum of, all these years. Why does anything matter if that's the case? Because it doesn't matter what you do. You're gonna die, you're gonna cease to exist, and you're gonna share the same fate as the worst of sinners. So with that said, the second question is, why does anything matter? How do you find meaning and purpose in this life? Because you can live the best life you could possibly live. For what? You're going to die. You're going to cease to exist, and that's it. So you don't know when you're going to die. None of us do. So what's the point of trying to live a moral life? For what? Why not just live it up, do, whatever I can to fulfill my lustly pleasures, regardless of who I hurt, regardless of who I run over, because in the end, it doesn't matter. I don't get anything for trying to be good. And there's no punishment if I was bad. Now you may say, well, that's a terrible way to live. Well, you might as, we should all just live to serve our fellow man because it's the right thing to do. Okay, but so what is my point? Why does anything matter? No matter what you do on this earth, you're going to die and then you cease to exist. Why? If that's the case, how do you find hope? I'm sorry, that is a miserable reality to me. How do you find hope?
Okay. So this is where I think we have to deal with emotional and ethical and moral maturity. I'm a parent. I don't know if Cornelius is a parent or not, but as a parent, at first, when my child was young, you basically teach them morality through reward and punishment. When they do things well, you give them a reward. Sometimes it's a treat. Sometimes it's just your affection. You did a good job. You give them a hug and you let them know you're proud of them. That's a reward, even if it's just a nod or a smile. Just that feeling of warmth. That's a reward you give your child. And then when they do something against what you feel is their moral code or what you think is good for their development, you punish them in one way or the other. Sometimes it's an actual punishment. You take something away from them. If you're the type that spanks, you spank them, or you withhold affection. You give them a little bit of side eye, let them know that you're upset with them. That's a punishment to them, and so they start to act in ways that will increase the amount of rewards they get and decrease the amount of punishment they get. And through that, they start to get a sense of what's right and wrong. Oh, when I do this, I feel good because I got this reward. And when I do this, I feel bad because I got this punishment. But as they get older, if all they do is act because they get rewards, if all they do is do good things because they're going to get something out of it, if all they do is avoid doing negative things because they're afraid of punishment, then you will have failed as a parent. If my son helps his other students with their homework only because he thinks he'll get paid, if he decides to do charitable things only because he wants to get a tax refund, if he decides to not commit a crime only because he's afraid of getting punished, not because he thinks the crime is wrong, but because he's afraid of going to jail, then I will have failed as a parent, and I will have raised an emotionally and ethically, a morally immature human being. He will still ethically be a child. My goal is for my son to eventually, and he's already showing signs of it, to do things because he thinks that's the way things should be done. I act this way because I feel better when I do these things. That is the reward I get from them. I'm not looking for some type of outside gratification. I'm not looking for some type of benefit from the outside world, some type of monetary, material gain for what I've done. I feel that this is what should be done. And conversely, I'm not staying away from negative things. I'm not avoiding harming people just because I'm worried about getting punished. If that were the case, then he would be a child ethically. And so when I hear Mr. Jones here saying that why do anything good? What reason is there? He's basically saying, unless he benefits from it, he doesn't see a reason to do it. And that is an ethically, a morally immature person. He shouldn't be doing things for that reason. That's fine. If that's the way he works, then that's him. But that's not how I work. So I have the ability to find purpose in my own life without the desire for an ultimate benefit. Like, for example, why do I do good things? Because I know that this world is a world that my children are going to live in. That the children of my friend, that people who are here after me are going to live in this world. And I want to do what I can that is helpful for them. That is a reason for me to do good in this world now. It doesn't benefit me, but it is a legitimate reason. The problem Mr. Jones has, and a problem many people have, is they don't have the ability to develop their own purpose without having it given to them. And that's too bad. I think that is a terrible way to live. If you can't look at the world and find a reason to live, to do good, to not do ill towards your fellow man because you're not getting anything out of it, then yes, that is a miserable existence. But that's not my existence. I may not have an ultimate fate that says you're going to get these things in the afterlife. You're going to sit at the right hand of God. You're going to live in an eternal paradise. You're going to live forever with health and with your family. I may not have that as a carrot in front of me, but I also don't have this stick of eternal punishment and damnation. What I have is my moral guideposts. That's what I have. And that works for me. And I'm sorry if theists don't have that. That's really too bad. But to say I can't answer these questions is false. It's to say I can't answer them to a degree that you like, to a degree that you're comfortable with, to a degree that you could live with. And that's fine. I'm not asking you to live with it. I'm just asking you to stay out of my way when I do. I think that answered your questions, Mr. Jones. I'm sure it didn't answer them to your satisfaction, but that's not the point. The point is that I can answer them to my satisfaction since it's my life that I'm living. But I understand that these are answers that you couldn't necessarily live with, and that's fine because I'm not asking you to live with them. Feel free to continue believing in Jesus as much as you want. But if you have any other questions that you'd like to ask me, if you have a response to my answers, feel free to make a video, drop a link to it in the comments. If you want to have any other questions for me, feel free to drop me a line. I'm not saying that I want to debate you to try to convince you that there is no God, because honestly, I can't convince you there's no God. I don't want to convince you that there's no God. You're obviously living perfectly fine with the idea of there being a God, and there's not any chance that you're going to be convincing me that there is a God. But if you have any questions about subject matter from my point of view as an atheist, feel free to ask me any questions you want. It would be great to have an exchange with you and anyone else watching this video. If you want to make a video asking me a direct question, it'll be almost like we're having a conversation if we go back and forth. Or drop a comment in the comment threads and I will respond on camera. Thank you very much for watching this video. I am GreaterSapien, but you can call me Jerry. Take care.
That's my job. That's what I do. I don't lose. I win. I win.
Is there no one on this planet to even challenge me?
Maybe you came by to congratulate me on last night's victory.